Hello and welcome to this NCFE short video on comparison and bias. Hopefully this will help with making and writing comparisons and identifying bias in text a bit more easier. So firstly, comparisons. So we're going to look at ways to compare text. Quite often when you are faced with comparisons, it seems a bit overwhelming, especially if you've got more than two documents. So in the assessment, you may be asked to say how texts are similar or how they differ. So do give relevant and precise ideas from the texts and provide direct examples from the text as well. Don't use your own knowledge or unsubstantiated answers. So comparing information, the types of questions you might get asked. Questions might be similar to this. Explain how all three documents have different ideas about an issue or topic. Explain how all three documents have similar ideas about an issue or topic. Using the information in the three source documents, explain whether you think X is a good idea or not. Compare and contrast the three source documents, which is the most likely to make you want to support X and Y. So, some possible ways to answer a comparison question. So there are two basic ways to organize a response. You can do this text by text, where you discuss all of text A and then all of text B. Or you could look at it point by point. This is where you would alternate points about text A and compare it with points that are in text B. Now, text by text is good if you think one document is better than the other. But point by point is good to use when you want to look at both in a direct comparison. When you do a comparison and it asks to look at similarities and differences, do aim to give both of them equal time. One activity you could try would be to practice writing comparisons by comparing two things that you know a lot about. For example, two books, two types of food, two cars, three breeds of dog, three electric tools. So choose something that you're quite familiar with and and get used to writing comparisons about them. What it's the same, what's different. So one way to look at comparisons is to look at steps. So step one would be to read the first text carefully. Step two would be to read the first paragraph of the second text and think, is it the same to what the other text says, or is it different? Step three, go back to the first text again to find out whether it's something similar or different to what you've just read. And then step four, read the other paragraphs in the second text and repeat step three for each of the other paragraphs that are in the documents. Next, comparing bias. So when you're comparing bias or even just doing comparisons, it's quite a good thing to do a chart. So if you were looking at it across three texts, you want to make sure that you've got information to write about each one. So this one is just broken down into document 1, document 2, and document 3. And as you can see, you've got the three documents there. And what you would do is you would look for evidence of which was the least biased. So how to apply and understand the text and language to an exam style question. So looking at the table that we had on the previous slide, you can see here that it's asking to analyze all three documents and explain which is the most biased. And it's telling you that you would need, it's worth 4 marks. At the side, you have the marking scheme. So it would say the learner's response, if they only make a clear choice and consider one document, then that's limited and only 1 mark would be given. If you made a clear choice considering only the document selected and one other, then this is reasonable explanation. So that would be 2 marks. If you make a clear choice considering all three documents and the choice is supported by a reasonable explanation, that would give you the 3 marks. And to get the full marks, to get 4 marks, you'd need to make a clear choice considering all three documents in detail, and that there is a comprehensive explanation supported by examples. So to get the full marks, you'd be looking at all 3 documents with an explanation and examples. So this next question, this one, and it's very important to always read the question, is asking to compare the views of Ray in document 3 with the views expressed in document 1. So you're comparing how different information and ideas are presented, but you only now, in this case, the question's asking for just document 3 and document 1. Right, so here it's saying compare the views of Ray in document 3 with the views expressed in document 1 and how these views are conveyed. So you've got the 2 examples there of the text, document 3 and document 1. So I'll give you a few moments to have a look at that. So you can see in this first one, greedy public service bosses, they've used facts and data. They have a negative tone and language towards the leaders. They use lots of negative adjectives. You've got there, is it any wonder our health services in crisis? So they've got a rhetorical question. In the post by Ray, you've got personal pronouns. I'm paid far less than I could earn. I stay at my job. Is that I take pride in work. So you've got those personal pronouns. They're also using their personal experience. There's a lot of opinions in this article, but they also have facts as well. Obviously, you've got the 15% increase and that 33,000 nurses left. So one way to plan for this type of question, again, it's using that table. However, you'll notice document 2 column is blank because this question is only asking for you to look at document 1 and document 3. Therefore, it is really, really important that you read the question carefully so you are actually answering what you're being asked to do. So here, what you can see is there is a list of techniques that have been used within document 1, such as facts and data, and then there's also an example. So when you come to then write your comparison, you've got at hand your devices as well as an example. And they've done this for document 1 and document 3. So you can see this is when they've come to write it. So they've taken what they've got from both of those documents. So they've started, while both documents contain some bias, I believe that document 1 is the most biased as it constantly is having a go at the NHS throughout the document. It also uses a range of negative adjectives, language and tone to influence the reader, such as greedy, shocking, and yet some bosses have given themselves a bonus. This adds to the bias along with the rhetorical question in document 1. Is it any wonder our health service is in crisis? This rhetorical question makes the reader think about an answer, and the personal pronouns our makes the statement personal, and as a result of this will have an effect on them. Then it talks about document 3. In comparison, document 3 has a balance of bias, with document 3 having a variety of both positive and negative comments about the NHS. They use personal experience. They tell us they're a senior manager in a large hospital for the NHS and that they take pride in working for the NHS. They also use personal pronouns, for example, to highlight negative points, such as I'm paid far less and you do the maths. Overall, while both have bias, I think document 1 is the most biased. So at the end, they are giving their justification and reason why they thought this. So you can see here what would be getting marked. You've got analysis, you've got use of quotes, you've got key features, you've got clear choices. So I hope this short video on comparison and bias has helped, and thank you for listening.